Okay, so we're going live a little bit early, but otherwise it would have been a little late. So,
well, better early than late. So if I just wait till 6 o'clock and then say welcome to everyone,
that would be perfect.
Okay. I should start sharing now then, shouldn't I?
Sure. Do you want to give that a try?
Okay. There we go. Oh, I should get rid of the little view here, make it a screen view.
You can just go to slide under the slideshow.
It's hiding under the black bar.
Just put your cursor up a little bit.
Okay, let's get up here.
There you go, to the right. A couple over to the right.
A couple over.
Nope,
It's under the
slideshow.
black bar, isn't it?
You've got the design, just do slideshow.
Because that's the bar up there.
Wait, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's hiding under the bar, and I can see the end one, and I can see file home insert, but I can't see slideshow. Can I move this down somehow so that it shows? There, right there. How'd you make it smaller? Doesn't matter. Oh, okay. Alrighty. Okay, and it is 6 o'clock. Okay, I will get started then. Good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock, and I think we should just get started. Hopefully, everyone who needs to get on is on. I'm just going to start by doing a quick overview of what we're doing. So, like usual, the content will just give you an update on where we're at right now, and I also want to bring up a few points that will highlight which ways we're progressing on new projects. And then we'll ask everyone if there are any questions, and you can jump in with questions on anything you'd like to know about or want to clarify. And as well, then we'll talk about where you can get some more information. If you'd like to ask a question, then you have a couple of options. For example, if you're on your computer or your tablet, you can raise your hand. You click on your raise your hand button. So use the raise your hand button, and then the little yellow arm will show up, and then we'll know that you want to ask. But if you're joining us by telephone, then you'll need to type in *9. And then when it's your turn to speak, the moderator will call on you and you'll be unmuted. You also, if you prefer not to speak, you have the option of typing your question into the question box or the chat box. And then if I don't see your hand go up or the question box or chat box number change, then my moderator will help me get organized and get to you as soon as possible. So now, just one more little housekeeping item. I think there has been some confusion. Tonight's meeting is the one that I used to give the residents updates on information and provide additional clarity on projects and initiatives, that kind of thing. And the meeting that is dedicated to the proposal on the Kamoga Community Center, that one is on Wednesday evening on April 27th at 6 o'clock. That meeting will focus exclusively on the topic of the community center and will include presentations, public delegations, and so forth. If you want to watch that meeting, then you'll be able to access it on our regular YouTube channel after it's done. And if you want to attend the meeting, I would remind you to please register before 4:30 that on Tuesday, that's tomorrow. And just as a suggestion, there is a lot of information on the municipal website. a review of the frequently asked questions might already answer some questions that you may have or concerns that you want to raise. The content's there. Then if you've done that, then you'll be able to get more maybe from the presentation and the content right at the meeting. So I think we're ready to move on to tonight's agenda. And the first item up is a quick review of where we're at with the official plan process. I'll just call it the OPR for short. The OPR is often described as a roadmap. It's a policy document, and it gives the municipality direction on where we are going to grow and how that growth will proceed across the whole municipality. Some of the things that are changed between official plans are driven by things like variables including population or employment growth forecasts. Also, infrastructure and servicing needs and plans and concrete items like that are considered. And as well, there's a very thorough process that involves comments and input from the members of the public, as well as stakeholders like landowners or business owners, developers. The county staff is involved as well, and Middlesex Council, of course, is party to the action too. So the process at a high level really starts with population projections. So the consultants will take a look at where we're at now and how growth has been happening, and then look into the future and try to develop numbers that will reflect a low, a medium, and a high growth scenario. Once this is done, this action is followed by a land needs assessment. And what it does, the land needs assessment links those projections for population to how much land is needed for growth, houses and buildings and commercial areas to support the population that is projected. So once you know how many people are coming and how much land is needed, there's all kinds of detail that needs to be looked at. This process is very consultative. It involves all kinds of meetings. There are a whole series of statutory public meetings that are required, and there are presentations and meetings involving different parties to the plan, as well as lots of correspondence from residents and submissions to review. And all of these different inputs are then integrated into the analysis. Ultimately, if it's needed, there are changes to specific growth, settlement growth areas, and then all the decisions with respect to needs for land and the current capacity for servicing and future servicing potential, how and where to locate specific types of development, for example, settlement employment lands. All of these things are put together, and the outcome is an official plan. So on Wednesday, April 20th, that is last week, the official plan report and document were brought to council. We heard from delegations who had registered to speak and present to us. We again had an opportunity to ask questions for clarification about specific areas and changes, about mapping and recommendations that were presented. Ultimately, council voted to accept the plan with a number of amendments. So we are very, very close now to finalizing the official plan. Likely this will be happening in May. So you can always check the council agendas and attend that meeting if you're interested. Now, I'm just going to give a very high level sort of general overview on how land is going to be used in our community. The document itself is quite thick. There's a lot of detail in there, but I think this will give you an idea of what the thrust of the project was and how it landed for our communities. There are changes to growth settlement area allocations, but the quantity of lands that are needed to support the population projections in Middlesex Centre didn't change. That is, we're not going to be taking in additional lands to our settlement areas or across the community, I mean the municipality as a whole, but as I said, the allocations changed. So some lands that were used in one community for a certain purpose were shifted to another area. And I think it'll become clear as we go forward. So really, there is a focus on new growth in Delaware, and that will, of course, come will require expansion of municipal services into the Delaware area, as the official policy statement from the province requires that growth is only happening in areas that are serviced. So that thrust to Delaware is going to be happening as well. Designated employment lands have been shifted from Elderton to Delaware. And the consequence of that, of course, then is the boundaries in Elderton were not changed, but by moving the marker that said employment lands to Delaware, there is a residential allocation in Elderton. So no boundary adjustments across the board, but those uses were shifted so that it made sense. The placement of each of those made sense relative to the community as a whole. Just as a statistic, over the life of the plan across Middlesex Centre as a whole, again, most of the growth in our community will happen in Kamoga-Killworth area. So when you look at the numbers that they're saying we're going to need to accommodate, 60% of that growth will happen in Kilworth, 20% in Elderton, and in Delaware, we'll see 11%. So now moving on to specific areas. Again, as I mentioned, Kamoga-Killworth is really a growing community. And basically the Glendon Drive corridor, that's the arterial road that connects 402 to London, will remain unchanged. The settlement employment lands that are positioned to the edge of the boundary, that'd be the west side of Kamoga-Killworth area at the west end, will continue to be identified as settlement employment areas. And much of the growth is going to happen there. So moving on to Delaware, as I noted, this was identified as a growth area and includes changes to both settlement and employment areas. So the growth that originally was thought might happen in Arva was shifted to Delaware. And as I noted earlier, the employment lands from Elderton were also redirected to Delaware. So that is an area that is close to highways and makes sense to have employment opportunities. I think commercial enterprises look to see where transportation routes are and proximity to suppliers and other networks. So it seemed like a logical move to make and to capitalize on the opportunities that area presents. Now in Elderton, as I noted, the lands that were designated as employment back in 2010, when we were doing the previous official plan review, those lands were redesignated to Delaware, as I mentioned, and then the southerly portion of the village on Hyde Park Road is going to be where the residential expansion in the area will occur. In Arva, residential area in the southerly portion of the area remains, but as I said, no expansion will happen there as staff will now continue to look into servicing and what can be done there going forward. Now, the other part that I need to mention is in the official plan, part of the purpose is to make sure that the proper amounts of land are in the proper places in the community, but it also sets policies around growth and development and land use. So there are three changes that probably will be of interest to residents in our area. For example, on-farm diversified uses. Increasingly, OMAFRA is looking at making sure that farmers are allowed to supplement their income through what's called a secondary use. So these are secondary uses are those that relate to agriculture, but are not really the primary source of income for the farmer. The farm itself is considered the primary use of the land. So we already have farm gate sales at some of our local farm sites. Increasingly, though, some areas would like to see expansions into things like wineries, if it's a grape growing district, or farm markets that sell the products that the farmer can make from his inputs right at the farm. So if you're a dairy farmer or a goat farmer, you have milk and you might want to make ice cream or butter or cheese or anything that is derived from milk. Another topic that is of interest to many in our area is that of farm severances. And the current version of the official plan review addresses concerns we've had about speculative severances and inappropriate farm rural development. So I guess it's fair to say the rules have been tightened up and clarified to make sure that farm severances are actually serving the needs of farmers and don't provide opportunities for speculators perhaps to leverage opportunities and create lots or areas that aren't really suitable for farming. And another interesting addition is related to making sure that there are opportunities for people to have additional housing units on their properties. In a number of cases in our community, we've already had requests from residents to have some kind of a facility to expand their home to make sure that, for example, aging parents can move in or live on the property, but not necessarily in the sort of the children's home. So there's opportunity here then to make sure that we have opportunities for people to age in place, encourage diverse, different kinds of housing options, and also a key aspect of all of this is affordable housing options. We all know prices are increasing, and it's really hard to get started quite often. So I think this will give residents some flexibility and opportunity to make sure that people who want to stay in the community have a chance to do that, or people want to return to the community. Children who've lived away and want to come back to live in the area, maybe won't want to buy a home, but could live in a prefabricated housing unit on the family property. So now moving on to updates on some of the modernization projects. I think most of you will remember that since COVID started, there has been funding from the provincial government to make sure that we have opportunities to improve our processes and our structures and technologies to make sure that we can manage our future demands more effectively, such as a result from growth that we've just been talking about. And these projects are focused on making sure that staff have systems in place to operate effectively and efficiently. So the first item I want to highlight is the customer relationship management review. There's just over $76,000 in that grant, and the intent of that project is to look at processes and systems to make sure that both the timely response and a timely delivery of service is possible to residents. Expectations have changed over time, and as technologies have been introduced into the marketplace, there are ways that we can make sure that things like processes could be speeded up, and delivery of certain documents or services could be delivered with technology. Sometimes when technology is used, errors are reduced because data isn't input several times, it's input once. And so all of these improvements focus on making sure that we can do the best possible job at delivering service to residents as possible. The second item here is the Firemaster plan review. There's almost $56,000 in that grant, and this project is designed to undertake a review of the structure of the fire department and to determine if it's adequate and appropriate as we continue to grow to serve people in a timely and effective and cost-effective way. This project should be done by this summer, and you probably want to tune in when we have that presented. It'll be interesting to see how things will move forward and what kinds of adjustments or changes we can make to make sure that we're delivering that service as effectively as possible as well. Number 3 here is the organizational service level review. We have almost $102,000 in this grant, and this one is one that is being undertaken in partnership with Strathroy Caradoc and Thames Centre, our neighbours to the west and to the east. The intent of this project is to make sure that municipalities have the appropriate resources in place as we see growth in our communities over the next 5 and 10 years. These are among the 3 largest communities in Middlesex County, and the way the growth has been going, it it's not something you want to react to. You want to think ahead and make sure that the structures you have in place and the people that are doing the jobs are there when they're needed, but they're not there too early. So this will really help make sure that there's organized and managed resources in place to, again, deliver the best possible service. I should note that these modernization projects are directly related to objectives that were identified by our strategic plan. And by gathering input and sharing information and working together with the county and our neighboring municipalities and community organizations, we can enhance our processes and we can leverage our partnerships. It helps to create a culture of innovation and continuous improvement. And ultimately, as I said, deliver cost-effective service to all of our residents. The next slide is maybe something you have not heard about yet. We've simply outgrown the space here at the office as staff have changed and how work is being done has changed and the municipality is growing. There has been discussion started about renovating the municipal office. We're early days still, though. Staff is really just defining needs and assessing feasibility at this point. But in light of the fact that Coldstream has been identified as a logical place to continue to locate our municipal office, the work can now go ahead. There are a lot of variables to consider. As I said, there's the numbers of staff are changing. Workspace is crowded here. Storage needs need to be updated. Storage spaces and needs need to be addressed and updated. We need to be able to offer flexibility. Some of the workforce is mobile and travels and needs to be able to come in at certain times of day, but not others. The other issue here in this building is it's dated, and we are not compliant with accessibility standards. So we'll have to take a look and make sure that, for example, we're making the upgrades to washrooms and entrances, customer counters and the heights of those, council chambers, and providing service to all with proper microphones and listening devices. All of these kinds of things can be addressed. And of course, one of the big benefits, I think, for staying here is that the existing building is here and we can work while the work is underway. And we're going to be taking a phased approach to do that. So there are 3 phases that are planned. And the first one will be the building and planning department and public works area, which is going to be a 2-story addition on the southeast side of the Coldstream Center, community center. So if you're coming into the parking lot and driving toward the back of the property, that's the west side. The building will be seen from the street, from that angle. And as you continue around to the back where the parking area loops around the building, that will be the other side of the addition. So I should reassure you that the Coldstream Community Center remains as is, but as a part of that work, again, accessibility upgrades will be available to all of that space, that footprint. So what else do I say? The entrance to the building will be through the existing doors that if you're coming to an event at the Coldstream Hall, that will be where you come in, and then as you enter to the left will be the new part. The planning people will be on the main floor to help serve the people who are coming to discuss their addition plans or who need advice on certain kinds of drawings and that kind of thing. And the public works and engineering administrative staff will be upstairs. In phase 2, the area that will be addressed will be the space allocated to council chambers. We're going to have space to accommodate probably around 60 people, and as well the entries coming into the council area, that is the lobby and the reception space, will be integrated as a part of that phase of construction. again, as I say, the appropriate technology will be added to the chambers to make sure that we can have in-person and virtual meetings and that they meet all the AOAD requirements. And in phase 3, that will be the last part of the work to be done. Building people and engineering people will have already moved at that point into the phase 1 2-story addition. So basically the office will be rejigged and reallocated in space to better utilize and organize the existing office spaces with meeting rooms as well as the file and document storage spaces. And while that's happening, of course, the aesthetic pieces that are part of construction and renovation, that is the painting and flooring, that kind of thing is going to be done in that last part too. Also, as a part of that phase, the structural, the sort of more mundane upgrades and repairs. So the mechanical pieces like the heating, ventilation, air conditioning system, and roof will also be updated at that time. As we in Middlesex are want to do, we will be considering any opportunities to mitigate operating costs by considering green and alternative and environmentally friendly choices. And these are typically opportunities that present themselves to staff through grant opportunities and that kind of thing, but absolutely they will be keeping an eye on those and assessing whether or not those are appropriate for this building. So the office renovation was budgeted in the 5-year capital budget that is between 2022 and 2026. But currently the only portion that is in our annual budget was the $100,000 that is allocated to getting this work off the ground and involves things like the detailed design. So that detailed design will be done, and then after that is completed, then there will be detail and there'll be clear understanding of what is and isn't needed, and the professionals can do the costing pieces and move forward with phase 2 and 3. Just so that everyone's aware, the funding is going to come from the Building and Facility Reserve Fund, and the other flows will be budgeted, as I said, as the costing and detailed design and phasing is finalized. Let me see what else. I think that's it for that one. I'm going to move on now to some of the other work that's been going on in the office. And I'm going to start with the age-friendly community action plan. Through the development of this plan, the ultimate goal is here to help guide the municipality in becoming a community that is supportive of an active and healthy, engaged living style for people who are perhaps over the age of 55, or those who have certain disabilities. By making sure that we take an age-friendly lens when making decisions, we can identify different approaches, unique ways of setting up programming or building things to make sure that all of our community members can feel engaged and be active, feel valued and supported by others. Our municipality is growing, and this does include a significant portion of older adults and seniors, and it's vital that we plan for the opportunities and challenges this will present. So this is a timely plan for our community as we are moving into a new implementation of a plan, official plan, and their buildings will be constructed, and that kind of focus will help make sure that we stay on track and make sure everything is accessible for all of our residents. Now, the Community Services Master Plan is something that is focused on programming and parks and facilities. So basically it takes a look at what have we got, where is it located, and how are these facilities used and paid for, that kind of thing. We haven't done one of these for a while, so it's again timely. There are changing interests and priorities for many people. Trends have to be taken into account. So the completion of this project should be, again, summer of 2022. And again, if you're interested, keep your eye on our website and make sure you attend the meetings that will be presenting the results of that plan. I should note too that the Diversity and Equity Inclusion Plan is an important piece of work that the council did approve just recently. And the focus is there to make sure that we keep our eye on and help foster a culture that is inclusive and all people will feel welcomed. And a perfect example of that is the age-friendly community plan. The idea is that no one should be left feeling that they're not part of our community or that they can't contribute in ways that are open and available to them. So these go hand in glove and are, I think, a virtuous cycle. We make sure we're looking at the right things at the right times and serve everyone as best as we can. Other highlights focus on Elderton Main Street. We received what's known as a RED grant, or Rural Economic Development Grant. And I think the residents in Elderton will be happy to see new benches and bike racks along Elderton's Main Street. That work will be done this spring. So look for that if you're driving through or if you're going to the market there. Washrooms are going to be installed in Heritage Park. The Ontario Trillium Foundation grant of $150,000 will allow us to renovate the public washrooms there in Heritage Park. And again, they're going to be up to date in terms of compliance with the accessibility standards. This is exciting news. I think we were at council, we were all happy to hear that the youth program in Elderton was set up. It's again a partnership opportunity that was explored and implemented. The Boys and Girls Club of London is helping to create programming for youth in Elderton. The space that they've got is it's a newly created space, but it's above the Elderton Arena area. And it was really good to see that the local youth were involved in developing the area, which includes a drop-in area. They can come and play games or take part in various programming offered. So this is very exciting, and I'm waiting to hear what other programming is coming there, and also hearing feedback from the users to see how it's working out and if there's improvement needed in something, or someone's got a great idea on another way of delivering something. So all of these are evolving projects and are serving different segments of our population. And that brings me to new playground equipment in Deerhaven Park in Elderton, as well as Kilworth Optimist Park. Both of these areas have been under construction already. Staff have been working hard to make sure that the base areas are prepared for the installation of the equipment, and it is expected to come in May. So if you're in Elderton or in Kilworth, look for that, and hopefully we'll have some good feedback about how that's being used soon too. Now, there are a number of upcoming events. Actually a lot. These are just a few that are coming up. I wanted to highlight the Public Works Week, which runs between May 16th and 22nd. And keep an eye on our Middlesex Centre website for information about a display of some of the heavy equipment and machinery that our Public Works and Engineering staff use to keep our roads safe. So if you've got young people who like to look at machinery or maybe compare the size of the tire to how high they can reach, that's a great thing to put on your calendar and have a visit there. Now, I also want to mention that we've got a couple of gardening groups that have got events coming up. The Middlesex Centre Pollinator Team is holding their annual compost day. This group was started a number of years ago by a group of residents who were initially focused on just what can we do to protect monarch butterflies? And really their scope is integrative. What they've done is also looked at creating habitats then for monarchs as well as other pollinators and providing education on native plants and species. So I call their work a labor of love. The volunteers are largely self-funded, and the Kamoga Compost Day is one way that they support their work. So if you need compost, it's coming up on Saturday, May 21st at the Kamoga Wellness Center parking lot. Come on out and get your supplies there. A new group known as the Elderton Gardeners aims to support and motivate residents to make positive horticultural choices in their own yards. and they're hoping that a lot of people take up this challenge, and that together they'll create a collective impact on the community. They have a page for more information, where you can get more information, or you can email Elderton Gardeners. So this is all lowercase, Elderton Gardeners, all one word, at gmail.com, and take part in the Elderton Garden Challenge. They've worked hard to create a list of projects that you might undertake, and they've also secured some prizes, including Heman's gift cards. So if you're in Elderton, think about taking the challenge and improving your yard. Let me think. Oh, I didn't note, actually, the Elderton Gardeners was one of the groups that council approved for a community grant, for a council grant this year. So, as to say, I think it's a worthy endeavor, and hope to see some support from the community on that. Also in Elderton, we have the tree planting event that is run by Enbridge. That will be on May 28th, and it will happen at 1 o'clock at Deerhaven Park in Elderton. The Enbridge team is going to, is working with our staff leading up to the event, and a good number of cubs and beavers are coming to help out with the planting. The Enbridge group is also planning to have a small barbecue there as well. So that should be a fun day. Hopefully the weather will be good and we'll plant lots of trees. That's probably enough from me. I'm going to open it up to questions, and I have two that have been submitted, but I'm not really quite sure. The one deals with homes that are encroaching on farmland. Perhaps what I can say about that, without knowing what the specific issue is or where it is a concern for our residents, that the official plan that I was just speaking about designates where urban settlement areas are and what the boundaries of those are, and single family farms maybe, single family homes may be built, within that area. They may abut farmland, but they can't just be built anywhere. So if the question is, are we going to see lots of homes popping up all over our agricultural areas? The answer is no. That doesn't mean that single family homes won't be built in agriculture areas. Farms can apply for severances in certain cases, or as I noted earlier, there is an opportunity now to build a secondary, say a mobile home, or as I was describing earlier, those smaller home options are available to residents, and you might see some of those as well. Sidewalks on Delaware Street North. As I said, I'm not sure what the question was with respect to that. There was an email that came from our Public Works and Engineering staff. I think it was last week. If you were a family that lives next to either a potentially new sidewalk being installed, you will have been made aware of that. As well, areas that are serviced by old sidewalks, which will be removed and changed to grass or whatever's appropriate that the engineering department has identified as a solution. You also will have received the information. If you have specific questions, perhaps with respect to work that is happening on your street, you might reach out to the Public Works and Engineering Department for clarification on specific details or questions that you may have with regard to that work that's happening in your street. I see that there are comments in the chat, and I see one question and answer. The question is, with all the development going on in Kamoga-Killworth area and population expected to greatly increase, why is council even considering making Kamoga Community Centre a surplus property and replacing with private business? I think I addressed that. I'm going to let the CA, our Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Michael DeLulo, answer that question.
Thank you, Mayor DeViet. Through the Mayor to everyone listening tonight, thanks for coming on. This proposal is a report that was brought forward to council, and what council has decided it best is for us to listen to what the residents have to say. And so we're holding a public meeting on Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock to learn and listen and hear what people have to say about the proposal. In terms of the growth, we do have an asset management plan where we do our best and our utmost to make sure that all of our assets in the municipality are maintained. And the FAQ that has been placed on our website does provide some rationale as to the explanation for the Kamoga Community Center. But again, we're looking forward to Wednesday evening to see what the residents have to say about this business proposal.
Okay, thank you for that update. I've just gone to the chat box, and maybe Michael, you can stay. You may know some of it. Oh, it's already here.
Yeah,
everybody can see that. So I'm just going to repeat it in case people aren't, if they're on the telephone and don't see the chat box. The question was asked, who paid for the playground equipment in the Kilworth Optimist Park? And the answer to that is that it's coming out of the development charges and budget. And those are, every year there is money that is allocated to certain kinds of projects in the community. So that is one of the ones that came out of that budget to support that kind of equipment. And let me just see if there are others. Oh, I have a question about what is a settlement employment area. And the answer to that question is that settlement employment areas are areas where you would see land that's designated for commercial and business growth. So commercial is a big term, but you would see perhaps small industries, or you might see an area, a place that, I don't know, builds or creates, oh, I know, we had somebody who was thinking about putting a watchmaking factory or establishment in our community. So they they produced fine watches. And so that would be an example of an employment, a commercial business area. I mean, Annie's Chocolate, you see commercial businesses in the settlement area in Kilworth. There are people who are veterinaries. There are public other services such as accounting or piano shops, that kind of thing. So business and commerce in general. And next we have, how soon will Middlesex Center have sewers in Delaware? Timeline in years, please. So sewers for Delaware are only proposed for a new development. That is a condition that is part of the official plan from the province. New homes will require servicing. So unless there's reconstruction that is planned, the existing areas are there. It's new development. It won't be touching existing areas unless there's a major reconstruction. So if there's a, I don't know, pipe failure or something like that. So the next step in the process will be the Public Works Engineering Department is getting servicing studies underway to make sure that we have a better idea of what that entails. So all of the sizing and directions, and you have to consider things like grades. It's a big project, but all of that work has to be undertaken before anything proceeds. Let me see what else we have here. I think that's everything. Correct me if I'm wrong. The moderator can jump in and say something here.
Hi, Mayor DeViet. There's a few questions that have come in the Q&A. If you can see those down below or up at top of your screen there.
Thank you. Question: when will the soccer field, washroom, and parking lot be completed in Kilworth Optimist Park? Well, I don't think the plans are quite done yet.
So Mayor DeViet, for that question, I know that we're working with Stantec now for the design, and phase 2 is underway.
Yeah, so that plan is, I didn't think they were done yet. Thank you for that clarification and detail. Okay, now a couple of development agreements for recent Kamoga severances referred to a Queen Street Reserve Fund and assessment of contributions for same. Was this reserve fund established, and is there a public Queen Street plan? I don't think that I've ever heard of a Queen Street reserve. Can you help me out?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor DeViet. I don't believe so. I'd have to look into that a bit further. But I don't believe so. If there's any funds related to a severance, it could be to complete conditions. And so there could be some holdback based on an individual application, but nothing that comes to mind. So I can explore this a bit further.
Okay. And then there's a question about, are there any plans for expanding public transit from London to Kamoga-Killworth or Elderton? I can say that at the county, there have been grants awarded to pilot and see how transit might develop in more rural areas. Initially, the services are running between sort of the Woodstock and like through Thames Centre to certain points in London. And then there are other counties around that have got connections, say between through Sarnia Lambton to Grand Bend from London. I think it starts at the north end at the mall. So there are pilots right now. I think the goal ultimately is that, yes, there will be public transit, but I don't think anyone really knows yet exactly what that looks like. So these are test runs, and there's funding to run them for a certain period of time. It's more than a year. I think it's a 3-year fund, if I remember correctly. But lessons are being learned from who uses the service and how. And for example, I know that there has been talk that it ultimately, I don't think anyone expects it will look like what you might think of as bus service in London, where the bus goes around in a circuit and picks up people continuously all day. For example, if you're a senior living in, I don't know, Bryanston, and you need to get into London for a doctor's appointment, I think the solution might look something more like computers scheduling buses for pickup and drop off based on people's needs that are already known and defined. So if you've got a doctor's appointment next Wednesday at 3 o'clock, then you can go on some kind of a site, say, this is what I need. And the bus routes are designed real time to get people where they need to be. Okay, so that might sound like a little bit of science fiction. I don't know that we're there yet, but I think that's the idea. Is no one's going to pay buses to run up and down concessions to see if anybody needs a ride. So some routes are designated, but how we get everybody who needs rides or to get to work to certain places, how all that happens isn't, it's not close to being defined at this point. And question, are the facilities planned for Kilworth Optimist Park captured in the 2022 budget? I think the short answer is yes. That work is, the work, say the foundational work has already been completed, and the materials and equipment and fixtures are being delivered in May. So I think that takes care of that one. And no one's correcting me. So, okay, I've got that right. Now, I'm not sure. There are no more questions. There's a comment here, but that I think takes care of it. Is that a new Q&A up here? No. Okay, got it. Okay, I don't see any more questions. I'm just going to pause for one more minute here. Okay, maybe, I can always come back and answer something. I'll keep moving. Some of you may want dinner still. Let's move to the next slide. And, whoops. What am I doing here? It didn't go. Why is my, there we go. I didn't push hard enough. So I have a message from the clerk as well. You may not be aware as yet, but the next municipal election is coming up on October 24th of this year. And I would encourage you to see if your name is on the voter list. This is really very easy to do. If you go to voterlookup.ca, you can confirm or update your personal electoral information. You can add an elector to your list. So, for example, if somebody moved home and is living at home now and they are of age where they might want to vote, you can add that name in there. Or you can change the support your school support, pardon me, for the purposes of voting in the school board election. Again, at the bottom of the screen, you can see the blue banner that is highlighting where you can get more information. You can go to middlesexcentre.ca/vote 2022, and there's all kinds of information to help you get that. Now, in terms of where you might get more information on questions or how you might get content regularly, as always, the Middlesex Centre website is kept up to date with all of the relevant news and events and information announcements. Social media is available through Facebook or Twitter if you like, or if you've signed up for the monthly newsletter, you can also get an email that pops into your mailbox every month. It's really easy to sign up on that. You just have to go to the webpage and enter your email, and that will come to your mailbox. As well, you shouldn't hesitate to reach out either to myself or your ward councillor. We're here to help. Check your webpage for the councillor's contact information if you don't already have it. You can reach me middlesexcentre.ca / mayor, and also council information on that site. Say we're here to help you, and sometimes it's a quick and easy question, or we can direct you to the proper person to get all the detail that you need. Say personally, my email is DeViet @middlesexcentre.ca. You can reach me at the office at 666-0190, and my new extension is 5234. I'm not a super Facebook user. I try to get news out to residents as much as possible. You should rely on our communications staff and look at Middlesex Centre, but sometimes I have information about events or other things too, and you can check my Facebook page anytime. So just to finish up, I want to highlight that this will be the last Mayor's Town Hall meeting, as the nomination period starts on Monday, May 2nd. So between now and October, that will be a quiet period, if you will. If you've ever thought you might like to run for council and see if you can get a seat, I would really encourage you to give it serious thought. If you have an interest in your community and have time to commit to community service that helps ensure the kind of community that you're really happy about and that you love to call home, and you've thought about getting involved, I would say put your name forward. It's really a wonderful experience. You get to meet a lot of wonderful people and hear lots of ideas. And I believe that participating in your community as elected official really is the very, very best level that a person who is elected could work at. It's rewarding and interesting. You're always learning something. So think about it. If you have any questions about that or want to chat about that, again, I'm pretty sure all the ward councillors and myself can answer questions or help you out. I just will check and see if there are any more questions. Nope, there are no more questions. So with that, then I'm going to say good night to everyone. I thank you very much for your time this evening and for taking time to attend. Stay dry. It's gray and cloudy. At least I wasn't competing with the sunshine tonight. So take good care, and I'll look forward to seeing you in person as I start knocking on doors. Good night.